So welcome to Beginner's Mind Temple, and thank you for coming out on a blustery night. And those of you who are here in the Zendo, and thank you for those who are participating from your homes as well. My name is Tova Green. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a resident priest here at City Center, co-leading this fall practice period with our head of practice, Tanto Timothy Wicks, thank you, and Eli Brown-Stevenson, who's our Director of Inclusivity and Belonging. It's a great joy to be teaching with them this fall. And I want to thank Abbot David for inviting all of us to co-lead this practice period, and as well to thank my teacher, Agent Linda Cutts. So today is International Transgender Day of Awareness, and I'd like to dedicate my talk to the safety and well-being of all those in our country and around the world who are transgender, including Sarah McBride, representative-elect from Delaware, who's the first openly transgender member of Congress. May they be well. So tonight, my theme, or the title of my talk, is Finding Freedom. And I decided to talk about freedom because, and what freedom means. There are different ways of viewing freedom. Internal freedom, which is what I'll mostly talk about, but also how to find freedom or support freedom that has to do with racial and social justice, and a view of our country and world in which everybody is respected and welcomed. So on Sunday, I went to a concert at the Jazz Center, San Francisco Jazz, of Sweet Honey in the Rock. Some of you may know about this women's, usually a cappella singing group. They were celebrating their 50th anniversary, and I remember first seeing them when I was living in Boston in the 80s, so probably early in their career. And I was very inspired by the concert. There were 5 singers, and for the first time since I've been hearing them, they had a bass, someone playing electric bass and an acoustic bass as well. And one of the songs they sang had everybody standing and clapping with them, and the song was one they have sung in the past. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And that phrase was repeated over and over. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And I've been mulling over that line, and what does it mean to believe in freedom, and why is it that we can't rest until it comes? Because I think, and maybe I'm taking it too literally, but I think rest is essential, and I'm going to talk more about freedom in this talk and more about rest. And the title of my talk, Finding Freedom, is actually the title of a book by Jarvis Masters. You may have heard about Jarvis Masters. He's written a couple of books. He's also given a Dharma talk here from San Quentin, where he's on death row. And he has been visited by many Zen teachers over the years. And one of them, Lee Klinger Lesser, was able to have Jarvis call in from San Quentin to give a Dharma talk at City Center. It was pretty amazing. Jarvis Masters initially went to prison I think he was 18 years old, because he participated in an armed robbery. And then later on, when he was already at San Quentin, a prison guard was murdered, and they accused Jarvis of having created a weapon that was used in the killing of the guard. And although he has claimed innocence and he's had a couple of hearings, he's still incarcerated at San Quentin. And over the years, he has developed a meditation practice and has written 2 books. The first one is the one that's entitled Finding Freedom. And his wisdom comes through in his writing, and the way he has actually transformed his life, even though he has, he's found freedom within a very constricted space. So I want to, in thinking about what freedom means, share a quote from Lama Rod Owens. I read it on his newsletter. And Lama Rod Owens is a Buddhist, he calls himself a Buddhist minister, author, activist, yoga instructor, authorized Lama, and queer. And his newest book is called The New Saints, From Broken Hearts to Spiritual Warriors, a human refreshed, serving a world shaped by love. He talks a lot about love. And he also talks about freedom. So I'm going to quote him. I've been reflecting on the ways in which the present is the pathway towards freedom. We can't get free in the future, nor can we get free in the past. It is the current moment where we can be grounded in our bodies and the earth and develop clarity and wisdom. This lays the groundwork for us to give attention and care to whatever is arising. This act of deep care allows space for us to tend to suffering, both our own and that of others, and work towards disrupting that suffering as best we can in the moment. There's also joy in this work because we have the opportunity to put compassion into action, figuring out what the work is, how we do that work, and how we sustain the work. So that description of freedom being in the moment and being fully present in that moment, and through that presence being able to relieve suffering, it reminds me very much of bodhicitta, the bodhi is awakening, and citta is the mind of awakening, the mind of a bodhisattva. And the Bodhisattva Vow that we recite, and we'll be reciting it at the end of the talk tonight, starts with, beings are numberless, I vow to save them. But as I've visited other Zen centers, which part of my work is visiting Zen centers in the Suzuki Roshi lineage, there are a number of centers who have changed the wording to beings are numberless, I vow to free them. And in one center I visited, it was further changed, beings are numberless, we vow to free them. And there's something about that that I really appreciate. We vow, because it's an impossible job to save all beings, and it's probably impossible to free all beings, but the vow is really about helping other beings to wake up, to awaken, to practice, or to find their own way of being awake. And the idea is that the Bodhisattva frees other people before achieving that freedom themselves, or before, sometimes that freedom is thought of as finding nirvana, or inner peace. But I think it happens simultaneously. As we free ourselves, we may be able to free other people. In any case, the idea of freeing all beings, or saving all beings, can seem overwhelming, and it's really helpful to remember that we are one of those beings, and so taking care of ourselves, making sure that we have the capacity to meet each moment is where I think it's very important to be able to find rest, and where that line in the song of Sweet Honey in the Rock came up for me as a question. Those who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And I think it's especially important to rest if we're involved in any kind of caregiving or social justice work, or certainly, I think for many of us at City Center, I've been hearing, and it often happens at this point in the practice period, that people feel really tired. The schedule can feel kind of unrelenting. And how can we find rest in the middle of a full schedule, busy life, for those in the practice period who are commuters, going to work every day, coming to the Zen Center in the evening or sometimes in the morning. Can be tiring. So where can we find rest? In my last Dharma talk, during the one-day sitting, I mentioned 5 invitations that were described by Frank Ostaseski, one of the early directors of Zen Hospice Project. And last time I talked about the invitation to welcome everything, push away nothing. But there's another one where he talks about finding a place of rest in the middle of things, and that can, we can find a place of rest on a busy day just by taking a moment to stop and take a few deep breaths, or take a short walk, a bio break, go outside, look at the sky. But just thought I'd share a few of Frank Ostaseski's words about it. He says, finding a place of rest isn't about adding another task to your already too long to-do list, nor does it mean napping more during your work day, though this may prove helpful. It is a choice to be alert, to bring your attention to this moment. That's very much like what Lama Rod said about being free in this present moment. That's how we finding that pause that can help us kind of refresh. And Frank Ostaseski goes on to say, rest is not an indulgence as much as it is indispensable. Nearly all plants go dormant in winter. Certain mammals hibernate, slowing their metabolisms dramatically. All are guided by inner clocks to emerge again in the fullness of time when conditions are right. This period of rest is crucial to their survival. And I think it's crucial to all of our survival. There's one other person who's been writing, there are actually a number of books that have been written recently about the importance of rest. This one is Rest is Resistance, a manifesto by Tricia Hersey. And she is also known as the NAP, her ministry, she calls the NAP ministry. And she writes about what it would be like to live in a well-rested world. So I think for us to find that place of rest in the middle of everything can be challenging, but it also is life-giving. So I also wanted to refer to the study we are doing during this practice period. We're studying, many of you are in the practice period, but some of you are not. It's Welcoming Beginner's Mind, a book by Galen Ferguson, and it explores the path of meditation practice, referring both to Suzuki Roshi's teachings and those of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who was Galen Ferguson's root teacher. And the path of practice is expressed through the 10 ox herding pictures that we've been looking at during the practice period. And they start out with an image of a person. It's a young person who is setting out on a journey, and then sees some tracks, begins to have a sense of where he's going, and then comes upon an ox and first sets out to tame the ox, and then finds ease in riding on the ox, and then finds himself alone in a natural place. And then the eighth picture is just an empty circle, an enso, we call it. where there's no ox and no ox herder. And that seemingly empty circle is not unlike the experience we may have in meditation, in zazen, where we may have moments of just feeling at ease and our mind is quiet. It may not be quiet for very long, but there can be a moment of just settling and feeling a kind of spaciousness. And what Dr. Ferguson says about this picture is the empty circle, it's the 8th ox herding picture, is not really empty. This space suggests the open dimension of all our experience. Whatever we see, hear, taste, touch, think, or feel is not fixed. This openness includes the changing nature of our bodies, feelings, and thoughts, all our communities in the midst of changing seasons and changing times. So this sense of possibility also. And, you know, I found this morning when I came to the Zendo and sat in my place and listened to the time drum after there's a time drum with several, it's called the time drum because there's a hit on the drum for each hour, and then the bell rings for each period of 20 minutes. So there were five hits of the drum and 3 bells, and I just had this experience of being totally with the sounds of the drum and the bell, and it felt to me like a moment when there was nothing else. And the thoughts started coming back soon afterwards, but if that's an experience of, you know, inner, I think of it as I'm exploring what freedom means, just a moment of feeling that inner freedom, spaciousness. So it's hard for me to give a talk without sharing a poem, so I do have a poem for you tonight. And it's another Jane Hirschfield poem. This one is called The Subtle Deer. I heard Jane Hirschfield talk about this poem in an interview, and she described, she lives in Mill Valley, and there are a lot of deer in Mill Valley. And she was looking out of her window one morning and actually saw a stag go through an empty space in a fence. And so that's what prompted this poem. The quiet opening between fence strands, perhaps 18 inches, antlers to hind hooves, 4 feet off the ground, the deer poured through, no tuft of the coarse white belly hair left behind. I don't know how a stag turns into a stream, an arc of water. I have never felt such accurate envy, not of the deer, but to be that porous, to have such largeness pass through me. So those lines, you know, I would have assumed she was envious of the deer, who had the ability to amazingly with this, the antlers that a stag has to go through a space without leaving any trace, but it was actually the fence to have that experience of largeness pass through. And I think that can sometimes happen in Zazen as well. So I'm coming close to the end of my talk, and I think I just want to mention that the ox herding pictures don't end there with this empty enzo. They go on to show the ox herder first in nature and peacefully resting, and then the last one returning to the world. Sometimes we call that returning to the world with gift-bestowing hands, and or returning to the marketplace with gift-bestowing hands. And that we may wish to stay in an expansive, quiet space. That's not really the point of our practice. So to end, there's another song. I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. You may have heard that. It's a spiritual. And I think, waking up in the morning and coming to the Zendo, that feels like a very apt phrase. I woke up this morning with my mind set on freedom. And just one other quote from the poet and writer Maya Angelou: "The truth is, no one can be free until everybody is free," which I think is coming back to the Bodhisattva Vow. So I think we may have a little time for a question or comments. Is that true?
We do. We have about 5 or 6 minutes. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I will bring the microphone over. Who will break the ice?
Could you tell us your name, please?
Louis.
Louis, thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for your talk. Do you feel being in touch with nature and in nature is extremely helpful?
Yes, I do. Yeah, the question is, did everyone hear? Being in touch with nature very helpful? I think it's extremely helpful. Thank you for bringing that up. And we can be in nature even in the city, or by having a plant in our environment or flowers. Stepping out and looking at the sky, taking a walk to a park, going to see the ocean, all of that is so renewing, and also reminds us that reminds me that I'm part of something much bigger. Yeah, thank you for that. Do you think so?
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
you do. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted confirmation.
Absolutely, yes, I do.
Another question? Well, I think we're good, Tova.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's end with our closing chant, and I would like to invite you, when we get to beings are numberless, just to try on, I vow to free them, instead of save them, just for tonight.